Hello Kaiju fans and Kaiju collectors, I'm back for my next review for my most recent collection update, and if you did watch my update then you'll know that my next pickup from that after Frankenstein Conquers the World was the Rebirth of Mothra trilogy on Blu-ray. Now, I skipped this when it came out back in 2014, mainly because I hadn't seen the Rebirth of Mothra trilogy yet, and at that time I kind of wasn't interested in it. Now I've seen it, obviously. They're not great films, but they're good for what they are, which is pure entertainment. But yeah, so we've obviously had Rebirth of Mothra 1 and 2 before, and this is the first time we've ever gotten 3 on any kind of home video in the US in an official release. So yeah, it's kind of set this set apart a little bit, because they could have easily just done another Rebirth of Mothra duology with 1 and 2 and just said, oh yeah, well, it's on Blu-ray now, so we can charge it more. But I figured I'd pick this up with the new movie coming out, with Godzilla King of the Monsters obviously coming out back in May. I believe I got this from FYE for like $7. So yeah, so let's dive right in. So in the 90s, obviously, Mothra made her reappearance in Godzilla and Mothra: The Battle for Earth. And following that, Toho made the decision to put out a Mothra trilogy in part of the 90s, where it was kind of like Mothra on her own solo adventures. And what kind of set this apart was that Mothra can now actually split off into a fairy Mothra, which is what the Shobijin ride on during the movie, especially if they need to make like contact with humans or whatever. They just travel around on this little tiny ferry. But in these movies, there's also an evil side to them as well. I cannot remember her name. She also rides on a little monster as well called Garu-Garu. And it's kind of like a little dragon. In a way, in the beginning of the movie, especially the first one, you kind of expect it to be something like a pre-evolved form of Ghidorah, but it's actually not. It's something totally different. Ghidorah does make an appearance in as Des Ghidorah in the first Rebirth of Mothra, and then as King Ghidorah in the third one. I'm obviously not really going to go over the plot of them very much, so if you want to read that, let's see, there we go. Let's do that. And then that's Mothra 2. And Rebirth of Mothra 3. So, yeah. So basically, these movies are kind of like Mothra's solo movies, where she still fights some monsters that are recognizable from the Godzilla franchise, mainly Ghidorah. But they did actually make Ghidorah, or Ghidorah, I don't know how you actually pronounce it, in Rebirth of Mothra 2 as its own solo monster. Kind of like the... I don't want to say like a guardian, but almost like the monster that is attracted by this Nili Kinai underwater city, kind of like something like Atlantis. But it actually, like, if you'd have to watch the movies to really kind of understand it. In the first one, their evil half releases Ghidorah to cause havoc in the world. Same thing with Mothra 2 with Ghidorah. She releases Ghidorah to cause trouble again, and that's basically what it is. It's just like a sibling fighting back and forth through most of these movies. What was nice, though, was in the third film, you obviously get Cretaceous King Ghidorah and King Ghidorah itself. So that was a nice treat for it as well. Now, if you look at the movies, it's mainly just trailers for them. Nothing really special. But, yeah, they all run about around an hour and 40 minutes each. I think the longest one actually is the first one, yeah, with 146 minutes, or with an hour and 46 minutes, sorry. But these are available in Japanese and English, so kind of just like how they did with the Godzilla Blu-rays for the 90s as well. They just give you the English and Japanese audio tracks with English subtitles now. But going into the Blu-ray itself, you've got Rebirth of Mothra on its own disc, and then Rebirth of Mothra 2 and 3 on a separate disc. And then if you look at the back, you've got Mothra herself. That's the back cover there. So, yeah. A really nice Blu-ray set for being kind of like an oddball release, because even though it's labeled as part of the Toho Godzilla collection, it's actually not. Because obviously, yeah, it's Toho, but this Mothra timeline, from what I can understand, is totally separate from the Godzilla franchise. So there's nothing tying it back to that. But overall, I wouldn't call these movies very good. They're enjoyable, and especially something like you can sit back on a rainy day or whatever, and if you don't feel like watching like one of the Godzilla movies, okay, pop one of these in. It's pretty much laid out for you, and it's not very hard to follow. It's just kind of like you just sit back and enjoy it. But, like I said, are they really groundbreaking? No, and some of the effects can be dated. Certain effects, it kind of falls the same way as Ultraman Tiga did. There's certain parts of it where you can tell that the effects are very 90s-ish. Because, like, just the way that they appear now, especially in Blu-ray quality, it's a little more apparent. But I would highly recommend this set for anybody that's, like, a completist, or you're really interested in seeing these. I won't say that they're exactly bad movies, like that, oh, you should stay away from these. No, but they aren't. If you're expecting it to be like the Heisei Godzilla franchise, don't. It's not, and it's not meant to be. But they're just as enjoyable in their own right. Plots are kind of... It all depends on, like, what you look for in a plot. Plots aren't the greatest, though. But you do get some cool monster action in them as well. So, yeah. I'll give the Trilogy, I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5. Probably the lowest rating I've ever given. The Blu-ray itself, though, I'll give about a 4 out of 5, too. Just mainly on the... skimping on the special features. But other than that, no, it's a great release. Would highly recommend it to anybody that's a fan of the Godzilla franchise or of the Mothra movies as well. But yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys for my next review.